I guess the cost of progress.
Yes, and we don't mind being in the middle of the construction zone. We know we're going to be in the middle
Right.
of the construction zone, so long as they're being courteous of us too.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to start.
Okay.
So. And it's a cold open. I just say this is a show, and then he rolls the credits, and we come back. I'm Bruce Apar, and you're watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Chase Media Group, publisher of Penny Saver, and also provider of multimedia marketing solutions for an omnichannel marketplace. And by the way, since I say that on these shows, I should explain what an omnichannel marketplace means if you're not familiar with that phrase. And that simply means that today there is so much media of all different types that we all use and consume and read and see and hear. So instead of just having a TV channel, let's say, channel now refers to reading newspapers and magazines and going online and social media and email and texting, all of the above, and I'm sure there'll be more and more coming down the road in whatever form that we can't even envision now. And we always like to thank our benefactors, Carla Chase, CEO of Chase Media Group, and my occasional co-host, Frank J. Rich, Chief Strategic Officer, for putting us up here every week. And we'd like to remind you that you can catch all of the previous shows on YouTube. If you go to Townlink TV, just search Townlink TV in YouTube, or even by my name, and all of the other shows that we've done will come up. And what we try to do on this show is bring you people that are doing things that are really interesting in the community. It could be in business, or sometimes in politics, or in social clubs, youth sports, and all kinds of activities that we think you should know about that are really positive contributions for the community and for our quality of life. And our guests today are Rose Mazzola and Ann Kutter of Red Tape Rescuers.
Hi, Bruce.
And it's worth mentioning that Ann is very active in the community. I see her a lot. I've known her for years and just recently met Rose. And I saw Ann at a Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber of Commerce meeting not long ago. I'm used to seeing her at meetings, but she was wearing a badge that had a name I didn't recognize called Red Tape Rescuers. And being an inquisitive journalist, I said, "What is that?" The name was really descriptive and intrigued me. And that's why they're on the show, and you're going to hear all about what they do. But one of the things that strikes me about the name, these days there's a lot of funny names out there in terms of corporations. Businesses will change their names or their branding just to keep up with the times, and sometimes their names are combinations of different technological words that are pressed together. There's one Inspiria, I don't know. And phone companies have changed their name to sound more technologically advanced. But very often you could hear the name and you really don't know what the company does. And one of the really smart things about what you do about this business is that Red Tape Rescuers is extremely self-explanatory. I mean, everybody knows what red tape is, and they know the word rescuer. But that being said, part of why I thought it would be really interesting to have you on the show is to explain in full what you do in detail and how some of the people watching may take advantage of your services. So why don't we start, with just a description of the company?
Well, Ann and I decided that there's a lot of people with problems with trucks and registering their trucks. And motor vehicle is very difficult. There's a lot of red tape with motor vehicles.
Right.
So I knew a little bit, I mean, quite a lot actually. And and I know Ann is very, very capable. So I said, well, let's do it together.
Right.
We wanted to partner.
And how long have you two known each other? By the way?
I've known Ann for about, 25
or
30
30
years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's my neighbor. She's
Right.
my neighbor. So, and she retired recently from New York. She was a employee from New York State. So she's
Right.
very, very knowledgeable with New York businesses. And I've worked with construction all my life, and
In construction?
yes, yeah. I
Did
was
you
with
wear
the
a hard
union.
hat, Rose? Or?
Yeah, well, I could have.
You could, right?
I had a union book.
Okay.
I was the first woman in the operating engineers, first union.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
But anyway, my boss had loved trucks and excavators, and he had a Lamborghini, and we had a helicopter, we had
Really?
boats. Yes, I registered them all.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
so I did a lot with the motor vehicles,
Right.
and a friend of mine had also was in it, so I started with her. Then I canceled that. So then I decided to go on my own, and then when Ann said, "Would you want a partner?" I said, "Yeah, someone like her is always good as an asset." So, but the main thing of us is that people do not realize what truckers have to do to get their truck on the road and keep it on the road.
Right.
There's New York tax. You have to have a DOT number. You have to be upgraded. You have to have HUD stickers. You have to have, if you're out of state, you have to have IFTA stickers.
Right. And I know that because we have talked about this before on other shows, that you were talking about when truckers go interstate, they could really be caught unawares by how things change in another state, and they
Yes.
can actually get fined
That's right.
just
Yes.
just out of innocence or out of
Yes.
That's right.
pure ignorance, not knowing.
Yes, just because, for instance, just because you have 80,000 pounds in New York does not mean you're going to have 80 pounds in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So you have to know the weight.
The limits. You
The
mean
limits,
limits?
yes.
Yeah.
And also a lot of bridges have problems. Bridges have weight
Right.
restrictions and things like that. And but people do not realize that the United States without truckers is nothing, because they do everything,
Right. Yeah.
and it costs them a lot of money. But you would not believe the amount of money that they pay between the federal taxes and the New York state taxes.
Right.
And if you go to out of state, all the taxes you have to pay just because you bought gasoline, diesel, excuse me, most
Right.
diesel.
In another
it could be gasoline also.
Right.
But diesel in New York, and you go to New Jersey, you have to pay, you have to proportion all the money that you pay. It's unbelievable.
So you mean what about when trucks travel cross country? I mean, every state they go into.
Every state they go
Yes.
into that has a different set of rules about how much they're going to charge for it's called the highway use tax, and it's
Right.
based on the amount of fuel they're using.
No,
And there's an international fuel tax agreement that's
Right.
between all the taxing jurisdictions, so that you can do the paperwork in one place, but you have to have permission from every state that you're going to enter, and you have to pay a tax to every state you're going to enter. And we recently had a customer who asked us about getting the IFTA plates, which would mean it's something that's good for the year. And we advised him to just try it with the trip. It's called a trip and fuel permit if you do it for just one trip,
Right.
because he wasn't sure how often he was going to be traveling out of state. And he said he went and got the trip and fuel permit for, I think it was New Jersey, and he said as soon as they crossed the border, the truckers got stopped.
Really?
They wanted to see the permits. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. As soon as they crossed the border,
So
they were
it's not
checked.
unlike practicing medicine or law, where you can practice in one state, but you have to be certified to
No,
practice in
exactly.
another state, right?
In fact,
Exactly.
and they also, Nova Scotia, they even go into Nova Scotia and Canada on these
Right.
things too. So for instance, say you bought a truck and you got New York, and you were going to go to New Jersey, and you say, I think I'll get my diesel in Jersey since it's 50 cents cheaper, or
Right.
60 cents cheaper. Well, that doesn't work that way.
Right.
You
Yeah,
have,
right.
You
Yes,
have to pay
right.
New
Right.
York for for all the New York miles.
And you're saying that you might get away with it for a while, but they're going to catch up
No,
with
no,
you.
no, you don't get, you don't,
You don't
you
even
can't
get away
get-
with it for a
no,
while.
no, you're not supposed to. You're
Yeah.
supposed to keep very good records. That's
Right.
what we try to tell our clients, we try to tell them the right thing to do. Ann
Right.
has made up a booklet that tells you everything.
Oh, really?
It's
Yeah.
amazing what you
How
we
would,
call it our
we should
compliance
mention, how would somebody get that booklet? Is it
I
available?
just give us a
Contact us.
call. We call it a compliance manual. It's a loose leaf notebook. We've got all the U.S. DOT rules, what's required to be on the truck, what the drivers have to have in the cab with them, what paperwork has to be filled out. If you're carrying what's called hazardous materials, if you're carrying a small amount of the hazardous materials, that's called tools of trade. And the
Yes,
driver
right.
has to know to say that to the cop when he gets stopped. I have tools of trade, because if he doesn't say that, he can be fined for having hazardous materials without having the proper placards and
Wow.
permits and things. So we've got all of that in this booklet, and then we go into what's required in New York State, because for the most part, New York State has adopted the US DOT rules, but there are some New York State specific rules as well. So we've got a section on that. New York City has its own rules in addition to the truck routes that they have to follow. There are also rules about crossover mirrors and where the decals have to be placed and the reflectors. So all of that stuff is in the booklet. We also have New Jersey and Connecticut, because that's where most of our clients
Tri-state
travel
area,
to.
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
right.
and if you need if somebody's interested and you need a different jurisdiction, we can do the research and put that in there
Yeah,
as well.
we've done-
And they can call us. We'll just
Yeah.
sell
And
them
I believe we have the
compliance.
number up on the screen. And then,
We
can they
do.
also find the information about the booklet on the website?
We don't have it
You
on
don't?
yet.
Okay,
We are in the
right.
process of updating our website, so
Okay.
it will be on there, but we don't have it
Yeah,
yet.
we're going to have some pictures of some of the trucks that we handle
Yes.
on the
Okay.
website
Yeah.
too.
And we should just mention, even though I know it is being displayed occasionally on the screen as we talk, redtaperescuers.com. And by the way, this also applies not only to professional truckers or drivers who are employed by fleets, but self-employed
Absolutely.
like contractors or anybody who would have
Absolutely.
a commercial van, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
they have to
Yes.
know about
Well,
this.
Yeah.
commercial vans wouldn't need it because they're
They don't
under,
need it?
No, because
Okay.
they're under 12,000 pounds.
Okay, so it's over
Mostly anything
12,000
12,000
pounds?
pounds that you have to start worrying about what you have to do right.
Right.
That's right.
And there's a lot of things. What we really try to do is we try to be fair. In other words, we try to tell someone if they can do it themselves, and they can go to Oscar, which is the website for truckers.
What's it called?
Oscar.
Oscar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
OSCAR, believe
Right.
it or not.
Just like the award. okay.
Yes, right. But there's no rewards. But anyway, we tell them what to do, and we try, if they can do it themselves, we're not, I feel that's not the right thing to do, to charge people.
Right.
If if they can do it themselves. And
If they want to. If they
Right.
don't,
most
we'll
of
do
them
it
don't
for
want
them.
to, but I feel that this is to give them the opportunity to
Right.
take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And we explain to them what all, like IRS has rules. Any truck over 55,000 pounds has to pay highway use
Taxes.
tax
Yes,
also,
right.
and that's based on a year. New York is based on quarters,
Right.
and some places do pay monthly, but only if they have to.
Right.
But we explain to them what has to be done, and we try to do, if they can do some things themselves and save themselves some money, we do that.
Right.
But otherwise, we're here.
No, and one of I'm sorry.
No,
go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, you can tell that Rose is very, very good with the trucking issues, and she's
Right.
done this for a while. But we're also interested in, or our focus has been that going through any of this paperwork, whether it's at the DOT, whether it's at DMV, whether it's the New York State Tax and Finance, whether it's insurance issues, whether it's Department of State corporate filings, all of those things, getting a federal employee identification number, all of these things can be easily researched. You can figure out how to do it. You can fill out the paperwork yourself. If you have questions, you can get online and you can ask somebody. You can get on the phone and ask
Right.
somebody. But it all takes time. And we understand time is money.
Yes.
Especially to a small business person.
Right.
So our focus
Yes.
has been trying to help the small business person by doing those things for them, saving them the time it would take, and charging them a very, very reasonable rate.
Right.
Right.
And as Rose said, if it's something simple and they can do it themselves and they want to do it themselves, we don't charge them for it.
Right.
If it's a more complicated issue and it takes us a long time to resolve it, then we start to talk about charging them money, and we have set fees for whether we have to go to IRS or DMV offices. But we really try hard to make this as easy for small business people especially, but also individuals,
Right.
to work through us so that we can resolve issues for them.
No, and one of the things on that note I wanted to underscore that really speaks to the integrity of both of you individually and the business that you're running together. It's just what you were saying, and that it is a business, but at the same time, your real interest is helping people sincerely.
Absolutely.
It's not
Yes.
just not just a
Absolutely.
catchphrase. And I know, like on your website, for example, something that stood out to me is that you're talking about DMV, Department of Motor Vehicle Services, and you say in all caps, so you're not trying to hide it. There's no fine print about this. You're saying, you're telling them that what you're offering, one of your services, is also available on the DMV website
Yes.
at no charge. And so that's their option too. I mean, so
Exactly.
Lord knows more businesses could use that level of ethics in applying their trade. So that's very admirable that you do that.
And we also say that if we can't solve the problem, we're not going to charge you.
right,
No
yeah,
matter how many hours we put
right,
into
which
it.
is also, I mean, and listen, the money back guarantees are part of marketing, but
We don't
and
even
you-
charge for the money.
right, okay. So have you ever had to reimburse anybody? Is that,
No.
Okay, never. That's which
Never.
is
No, we
also
have
very
done,
impressive. Yeah.
We've done, in fact, all of our business so far has been word of mouth.
Yes.
Because
Right.
people don't understand what we do.
Right.
So most of it's all word of mouth. So we get one client, and all of a sudden you get another client. Oh, someone told me how good you are,
Right.
and then you. I mean, we've had people that plates were taken right off the road, and we had them running within a week.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
The motor vehicles, the state police can take your plates right off the road if you haven't paid correctly.
Right. Oh no, I'm sure. Yeah. If
And
you're
they'll-
a scofflaw, as they
Yes,
call
yeah,
it, right?
And
Yeah.
because now everything is so computerized, because they have, they can go into Oscar also, and they'll see that you didn't pay your HUD sticker, or you didn't pay your tax, your
Right.
highway use tax,
Right.
and you didn't do this, and you didn't update your DOT, and you didn't do this.
Right. I mean, these days more than ever, there's no place to hide, right?
No,
That's for
right,
sure.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
one of your one of your promotional phrases, let's call it, is "We stand in line so you don't." And as you just were mentioning, with the totally computerized society we live in, you also stand online so they don't.
That's
and,
right.
and I'm curious, which you talk about how filling out forms is part of what you do, and again, not necessarily for a business, just for a private citizen.
Yes. Right.
But it's sort of a standing joke among comedians how, like, this is an analogy, people never read, when they buy a new product or a new, certainly technological product, no matter how involved, they never read the manuals. And I think it's similar with forms. People will look at forms. I mean, of course, the most notorious are the IRS forms. They're the epitome of being intimidated by filling out a form. But people look at a lot of different forms, even simple ones, and just say, I don't even want to go there. I mean, are online forms, would you say, easier for people, or are they even more intimidating? Yeah.
Well, it depends, because not all online forms are printable or
Right.
savable. So
Right.
you have to see which, it's got the PDF files and whatever.
Right.
So therefore, like most of my stuff, the 903s and things like that, the 2290s, and most of all your MV forms are online, and they're
Online,
very
right.
easy to get a hold of. And your sales tax forms are not savable, or you can't print them either. So
Right.
you have to do them on the side.
Can
What
I
do you
think-
mean, in hard copy, you're saying? Or?
Yeah,
hard copy, yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can print them, but you can't.
And then you have to fill them
necessarily
out.
save them.
Right.
Yeah.
And is that on purpose you can't save them? Or is that just that they haven't
who
figured
knows
that
what-
part out yet?
Don't-
Who
don't
knows? New York does.
Right,
That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
Well, Governor
I-
Cuomo, I think, knows.
I find the online forms a little bit more difficult, especially when you're first looking at them, because you have to toggle back and forth
Yes, right.
between the instructions and the actual form.
Right.
Well, that's
Yeah.
Yes.
when you do a lot of them, you get to the point
Yes,
where you do
absolutely.
all you're doing.
Yes.
No, but that's what
It's
I'm
not
saying.
easy.
I think it's ironic that it's supposed to simplify the process, and yet
Well-
it is intimidating and confusing because the human interaction or interface is not natural.
That's
You know,
right.
it's sort
And
of
if you have a
unnatural.
question about something, you then have to leave everything and go to maybe a third site, or most places don't have the online chat. Most of the government offices, anyway, don't have the online chat.
Right.
And so you have to either get yourself on the phone and you just sit on the
Right.
phone and wait, or you have to try and research it through a number of different paths on the website to try and find the answer. And that always takes time. It's there, but it takes time to find it.
Right.
I'll tell you something funny. a customer of ours, a client, just go to do business in Mount Kisco. And he says, I have a problem with the title. Well, I said, well, I'll call up the title company.
Right.
Well, I called Thursday all day, busy all day. I called up Friday. No, Thursday they were closed. Or Wednesday was it closed. They were closed one day.
Right.
Thursday it was. I called all day Friday, couldn't get
Right.
it. He said, Ann, now this is the woman that knows everything. She said, this is what you do. So I called the number, and I got somebody right away. Right away. I got into
Interesting.
and we found out what to do. So now we're going to be working on that to get this man a title.
Right.
But it was, and a lot of things you cannot do online.
Right. Right. Oh, absolutely.
You can't do, if you have a title, you can do titles online, but if it's a special thing, you have to go to the motor vehicle with it. So you still have to go to the motor vehicles.
Right.
And certain things like at one time you were able to go to Portchester for New York State and solve all your problems, but they closed that down, of course, to make it so it was, but that was a wonderful spot there. It was, you could get something straightened out in 5 minutes. They have such a nice people down there.
And you know, by the way, what else? I think that it gets ridiculed in other ways, but social media. I could tell you an experience that I had with a very well-known retail chain where I bought something and I had to return it. I had the receipt, and the young clerk behind the counter said, "Oh no, our policy is you have to have the original packaging." I'm going, "I have the receipt. I bought it here." He said, "Call our headquarters." I went online on the website, and I called the headquarters, and the only conduit you could find was to buy something. And I'm saying, no, I need to talk to customer service. I bought something, I want to return it. And I had no luck. And this is a very large national chain that everybody knows. And I was very frustrated. And so I'm on the website, like our Facebook page. I went to Facebook. Do you know that my problem was solved almost immediately by their social media manager on Facebook when the website and the phone system, could not help me at all. So, I mean, social media can be used for very, very, positive solutions. And it's like anything else, technology is neither good nor bad, it's how you use it.
Exactly.
So some people have their own feelings about Facebook or Twitter, but they could be extremely helpful.
Well, a case with the IRS, we go to the IRS directly to get the guys 2290 because they have to have that done before they could register a big truck.
And the 2290 is the
a
federal highway use tax form.
Right.
So we go there, we wait. One time we were there 2 hours, and she told us not to come back next week because she was the only one there.
Yes. Yeah.
I just heard this morning on the radio on a news station. It was a business report, and they were saying that there's a certain trend now where businesses are now feeling they need to put human beings back on the phone, like just what I was just talking about, and there's and there's that expression, I'm in voicemail hell. You just keep going around in circles, and I guess now there's a certain sentiment in the business community that's not necessarily working to their advantage, in terms of presenting to the public, a very disconnected, unfriendly persona. And so now they're saying we need to put real people back on the phone to deal with our customers.
And they speak English.
Right.
Yes.
Well, you should understand who you're talking to.
Yes, I have problems. When I have,
you're saying, you say people who they speak English, but you don't understand what they're saying.
We have. I have a little bit of a hearing problem,
Right.
so. Whenever I get someone I don't understand, I'll say, "Would you mind
repeating that?" Right.
No, I said, "Would you mind giving someone who speaks English better than you do?"
Right. Yeah.
Which is not very nice, but
Right. Well, I think in a lot of cases, isn't that due to outsourcing? And
yes,
Absolutely.
I mean,
and that's
you're talking
another
to somebody
thing. Yes.
half a globe away, basically.
Yes, and
That's
this
what's
is
happening.
it's not. But this is with big companies too. It's not like with
Oh no! Well, I
Absolutely.
think that's mostly who it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, the model, you might say, of that is Microsoft. I think was one of the first companies that when you call customer service, after a while people started to realize, wait a minute, these people are, in Asia, basically.
that's
And then they're just looking at, what they're supposed to say to you. And,
Yeah, but as I said, as you get back to the forms, a lot of your forms you can print on from the websites. New York forms are all printable. not
Right.
fillable, but printable.
Printable, right.
And the federal, you can get your 2290s, which is the only thing you would need on a
Right.
truck. That's printable. And your MC 150, which is your DOT update,
Right.
that can be downloaded.
Right.
So there's a lot of things make it easier now. But again, a lot of truckers don't even have computers. They don't want to be bothered with
No,
computers.
sure, I understand.
We
that.
have a computer.
Right.
One of our clients does not have a computer. In fact, several of them don't have computers, and they don't want computers.
Right. And you also, I don't want to overlook the fact that we've been talking a lot about trucking, but just people, let's say, who are doing home improvement, and you're going to your town hall, and that also can be very frustrating to deal with all the,
Right.
the permits and the licenses. So, and that's something you also do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we've done almost a little bit of everything, and
Yeah.
I've done medical forms all my life. I worked in that, and I like
Right.
helping people with that. It's I feel sorry for people that have to. I've done income tax forms too, and for that
Right.
matter. But
And,
I don't
you were
like it.
saying how we were talking before, and you were saying how sometimes people, even on taxes, will overpay, and you can get them back.
That's right.
Right money.
That's right.
Yes,
that
yeah,
they-
we had several people that overpaid on their 2290s, and we went to with a woman at the IRS is very nice. She's very
Right.
sweet, and she told us what to do and how to. And
Absolutely.
I think you're
and
going to
we-
ruin the IRS's reputation if you keep saying that, Rose.
I know it, but you don't know it. My dentist kisses me, so so we get
Yeah,
kisses from I get
absolutely.
kisses from the motor vehicles, which is and I get kisses from the IRS. I mean,
Right.
really, because I have a philosophy in life. If you're nice to people,
No,
they have to sort of
absolutely.
be nice
That's-
to you
no,
back.
that's
It's very
absolutely
hard
right.
to be
That's
nasty to someone who's nice to you.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is it old saying, you get more with the honey than you do
You
with.
with vinegar.
vinegar,
That's right.
right.
Yeah.
But you also were talking about how a lot of things that happen that you deal with to reverse or solve, or it could be something as mundane as a misfiling.
That's right.
I mean, which
That's
I mean,
right.
listen, it's mistakes are made, and
Absolutely.
it's only being
That's right.
human. But
Yes.
Yeah. Entering some of these, like a VIN number, for example, is a very long number, and it's got a lot of different letters and numbers in it. And if somebody types in the wrong number and doesn't catch that error, then the next time you try to do a registration or anything else with that number, it's
can't find
not
it
there.
probably.
You can't
Right.
find it.
Right.
So we have worked with some of those cases. We've worked with people who inadvertently get two federal employee identification numbers. That gets
Right.
attached to everything you do. If it's on the wrong piece of paper and you're trying to deal with that piece of paper, you can't accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Right.
So we've worked with the IRS to get those things resolved. We work with the Department of State on people
so
who've done.
when you say get resolved, I mean, is it changing their policy or?
No, what you have to do in some cases with the extra FEINs, for example, you have to close it out.
Right.
And then you have to and if there are more than one that's all tangled up, sometimes they'll advise you to just close out all of them and start all over again. Sometimes you can just get a note in the file, but sometimes it takes just completely scratching everything and beginning again. With the Department of State, if you have if you've got a spelling on your corporate name and you go in and enter something and it's spelled differently,
yes, right,
you've got
right.
a problem with that one too.
Right.
So sometimes we've spent weeks dealing with them, 25 or 30 minutes on a phone, and then you have to get another piece of paper and you
Yes.
call them back and you have to wait to get them.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes weeks to resolve it. But we get them resolved. We've had a pretty good track record.
Yeah. And we do
Yeah.
amended with the registrations that are wrong. We do amended forms.
Right.
And IRS amended forms.
Right.
So they are amended forms. They do forgive you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Eventually. Right. But, and we have to wrap it up. But the one thing that I'll never understand, talking about these types of things, where it's easy to, like you say, enter your name, on the same website or the same agency, government agency, maybe slightly differently without an initial, and it throws everything off. But sort of related to that, I find is with all the amazing technology we have these days, the iPads and everything else. Why nobody can figure out why we can't use just one password for everything, or username and password? I mean, I'm sure the average person who deals online, in their lives, daily lives and at business, it seems sometimes you have 20 different username and passwords.
That's right.
I happen to enter mine in my iPhone, so I keep track. But anyhow, that's another show.
I'm waiting for biometrics.
What, for
Biometrics,
Oh,
fingerprints or eye prints.
Right, that's, I guess
Yes.
maybe.
Well, they
Anyhow,
have-
the credits are now obscuring our faces. So I just want to thank our guests, Rose Mazzola and Ann Kutter of Red Tape
Nice
Rescuers.
talking
Thanks
to
so
you,
much
Bruce.
for being here. It's always
Thank you very much.
fascinating to talk to you. And thank you for watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk. Thank you.